I'm hitting the go live button.
All right, I am recording.
And we are live. Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
I'm Nathan.
And we have another very special episode. We have the 1971 movie Klute. Nathan, do you have a history with Klute?
I remember when I was a kid, this movie was in the library when it was still a novelty to check VHS tapes out of the library. And this was, this was considered a classic film. And this was when I was in my, I like Donald Sutherland because I watched the Eye of the Needle movie. And it's like, I'm going to watch some of his other movies. um, so I'm not sure which one of those movies came out first, but I think Eye of the Needle came after this.
Okay.
But let me look that up. But yeah, so I really got into a lot of his movies. What was the other one he did that was kind of cool?
Well, he's done a lot of stuff. He's still acting. He's like almost 90.
Yeah, I remember him because Eye of the Needle was 10 years after this.
Okay.
But
yeah, this is probably like the earliest movie of his I've seen, maybe. And I'm like, how old was he in this? And he's like 35 in this
oh, okay.
movie.
He was also in Kelly's Heroes. He was the tank driver, the hippie tank driver in a World War II movie.
Yeah.
Also an Invasion of the Body Snatchers, of course, Ordinary People. Yeah, there was a whole world of Donald Sutherland I got into, mainly like his 70s and 80s movies.
Yeah.
And then, of course, after that, I liked a lot of the stuff he did too. He's done some crazy stuff. But...
Well, in the 90s, he ended up in like he was basically like the metaverse holding together all the Stephen King movies, where he was like essentially like the devil amongst all those movies.
Yeah.
Because he appeared in a bunch of them. I'm not sure if it's meant to be the same character, but that was like the vibe, is that like the devil appears in all these terrible movies. I mean, not quality, but just like, a movie where it's based on Stephen King, so people are tortured and learn nothing and everything is horrible.
Yeah.
And it's very exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Why can't we win, Steven? It's like, that's not how the world works. What
Have
if
you
the
ever
world
known anyone that's won?
Yeah. What if
Really?
the world
Yeah, I became the best-selling author in the world, and I got run over by a car.
What if the world's even harder than what you thought it was?
Yeah.
What if the world was literally working against you and had magic on its side?
So, I think of like the later, well, not really the later, like early to mid '90s. Sutherland. It was I remember he did a really good job of playing. He was Mr. X in JFK. He's the guy who explained everything to Kevin Costner, which like of course didn't happen, but it's like, well, that's a cool character. And then he was the pyromaniac in Backdraft.
Oh yeah.
He played a really weird like guy, and it's like the animal got away from me, it burned me, but he did it in such a way that it was like, oh god, this is creepy.
And sort of even sort of like a resurgent in the 2010s as he like ended up in the Hunger Games movie.
That's right. Yeah, he was the evil president of the Republic or whatever.
Yeah.
I still remember he was in the it's like 94, 95, the Goyer film, The Puppet Masters, where it was the little creatures in the back of your neck.
Oh yeah.
It was not a great movie, but it was kind of cool.
Was that the one that was basically just Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but not the same name?
No. Well, this was a Heinlein, Robert Heinlein.
Oh, okay.
Story. So it's similar thoughts, but they weren't. They were like parasites. It was more like the evil creatures in the forgotten Star Trek: The Next Generation episode.
Yeah.
It's but I forget. I know he was in that. and it was like a highlight in an otherwise weird movie. But yeah, I've always liked that guy in a lot of things. And like I said, he showed up at weird movies at weird times.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like I'm here.
Well, like it's like well, even his son Keith Sutherland, where you think of him as like, oh, the 24 guy is just like this bog standard action hero, but like, look at Keith Sutherland's work. He plays weirdos all the time, and he makes
Oh yeah.
choices.
Well, Donald Sutherland, I think it's just the way he talks
Yeah.
is immediately like, whoa, okay, pay attention to this guy. And of course, he's always doing this at you with his eyes. And it's
Yeah.
like, this guy's he's saying something.
Is he like from Pennsylvania or some shit? Because he seems like somebody who
Canada.
like. Okay, that sort of makes sense. Because he seems like somebody who like used to have a British accent and then it went away, but it's still kind of like there. It's like.
He's from New Brunswick, Canada.
All right.
Don't know anything about it, but yeah, he does seem like a guy who could. He's like I lived from the time I was born till I was 12 in like some other country where they speak English with a thick accent, and now I'm trying to hide it desperately.
Klute came out June 25th, 1971, so I guess just in time for the summer. I'm
Yep.
not sure if the summer blockbuster was a thing then. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I imagine that's always been a thing. It's like, oh, kids are out. Like, I mean, this is a really kids movie, but yeah. Director was Alan J. Pakula, who I guess I don't because you always talk about like your love of the '70s paranoia movies,
Yes.
and he is like the tentpole of '70s paranoia movies.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can the Parallax View, All the President's Men. Oh.
Well, out of the trivia said this is like literally this movie, Parallax View, and All the President's Men are considered like is like kind of like a they call it they call it like Palooka's paranoia trilogy.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. And I love all three of them.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like one of his later was like the Pelican Brief, which was like we're doing a like a courtroom thriller and stuff like that. And there's a bunch of those in the '90s. So
Yeah, I think the Pelican Brief was based off a Grisham book.
yeah, I think it was one of the first Grisham novels
Yeah.
to come to screen.
Because who was in that? Was it Denzel Washington and all the other famous actress?
Julia Roberts.
Yes. Yeah, Julia Roberts.
Uh,
Yep, this is the guy for for that kind of like I said, that paranoid style I love.
His last movie, he even did. Oh yeah, Sophie's Choice is another one of his.
That's a happy one.
And the last movie he did was called The Devil's Own, which I don't remember liking or people liking it, but like it's got Brad Pitt and Harrison Ford, and like Brad Pitt's like supposed to be like an IRA runaway or something like that, which
Oh,
sounds
that
interesting. Yeah, it sounds interesting. I don't remember it actually being good, but I don't
I
know.
hope he's doing his what's the movie where he has the indecipherable accent?
Oh, doing the pikey accent from
Yeah, I hope he's doing some version of that.
Snatch. Yeah. No, I don't think he's doing an accent because I think that's supposed to be a thing. He's like undercover in America or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Cinematographer is Gordon Willis, which he went from this to The Godfather.
Yeah.
So that's his legacy. Let's see what's the other things he did. But yeah, I mean, The Godfather pretty much,
Yeah,
nailed
that's a
it in.
wrap.
I
Worked with
can't.
Woody Allen too. They probably don't celebrate that as much.
No. Yeah, I was gonna put in this feature we're doing. I was gonna put some Woody Allen movies because I've never seen them, and people always talk about them being good. And I'm like, you know what? No.
Yeah.
Let's
We're
not.
too late to dip in now to become like just champions of Woody Allen. Yeah, you can marry your adopted daughter. There's nothing weird about that. Don't be so judgmental. You've never been in that situation. Who among us can say, let he without sin cast that stone? Yeah. No.
The thing I was like tips you over to it is that like Woody Allen is Chris Rock's favorite director, and he tried to emulate it. He like came out with these kind of weird comedy slash dramedy movies like in the early 2000s where like he was really trying to do like I'm gonna do the Woody Allen thing, and they weren't really well received, and he kind of just disappeared back into comedy. But
Yeah. I
um
can vaguely remember that.
um also Gordon Willis came back and did the Parallax View, All the President's Men. Yeah, Annie Hall. That's one of the Woody Allen ones. What's the other one? Pennies from Heaven. I don't even know what that is. I just remember the name. Um, let's keep going. The Money Pit. Huh. Okay. Oh, he's like doing comedies now. That's almost sad. Comes back. He does Godfather 3, Malice, The Devil's Own, and then that was both their last movie. Him and
Okay.
Pakula. Pakula dies in '98. Willis in 2014. So it looks like he just retired after The Devil's Own. Written by Andy Lewis and David E. Lewis, and yes, they are siblings. So
Okay.
they're like TV writers, and this was like their like punch into like, yeah, we do something more serious for film, and never really did anything after that.
Yeah. I'm thinking they went into another line of work or something when you try to look it up, it's like, huh, well, it's okay. They must have done something else.
I mean, that. Oh, let's see here.
That
No,
those Klute residuals really paid a lot.
yeah, they'd never did. Yeah, there's one TV movie listed for them called Big Rose Double Trouble. I don't even know what that is, and maybe that was like somebody found one of their scripts in a filing cabinet somewhere. It's like, produce this.
Well, one of them has like 9 children or something. So I
Huh.
think they had to like, hey, you better get back here and run the family restaurant or something.
Yeah.
Because we got to feed these kids.
Oh, do you think they're just like? You think that their brothers working in Hollywood, both script writers, they probably come from a large family, and then they had large families, so that it's just somewhere there's got to be a family business of all these
Yeah, there has to be. If you're going to raise a baseball team, you have to employ them. It's like you can literally like, oh, we can farm by hand with this many people. And that's the old like that. I can find that information about one of them. So it's like, yeah, I don't know what they must have done. So I'm only writing my own Andy and Dave Lewis fiction myself. I don't know what they did.
The records don't go back that far.
Yeah. The internet ends. This is a conspiracy. Are they hiding their deaths? Oh, by the way, Alan Pakula got killed because I think a pipe flew off a truck and went through his windshield.
Oh, he got Final Destination 2'd.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird story. It was like, what a weird ending to a guy who like made me
parent. Yeah, Huh? Was it an accident?
Yeah, it was. They finally getting him back. Well, the 70s was just like those. There's so many movies.
Well, I've heard, like they even did MythBusters about that Final Destination 2 scene where the logs fall off the truck and just kill everybody. And they're like, that can't happen, right? They just made that physics up. And it's like, yeah, that can't happen. And there's like 400 examples of it happening, but not in that way. It's more like, the truck stops suddenly, you ram to the back of the truck, and then the 400-pound tube comes off, flies through your windshield.
Yeah, they weren't like flying like heat-seeking missiles and hitting people. But yeah, if you get on the wrong side of one and the logging chain busts, it's like, yeah, you're gonna die. Especially moving down the freeway or whatever. It's like that's gonna hit you with several thousand tons of force. 100, I don't know how you calculate it, but yeah. You're not gonna live
force equals mass times acceleration.
Yeah.
So if you have a lot of mass and it's accelerating at any speed, it is very dangerous.
Nope.
Of course, the cast is Jane Fonda, who won the Oscar for this.
And she should have.
Not sure what she is up against, but yes, she's very good in this movie. and even kind of a quirky. I don't know. It's weird. It's like her performance is also it's very raw. Like some things seem like they're mistakes that should have been cut out of the movie, or you should have done a second take, but they're just in this movie and somehow it works.
Oh, I watched 2 long interviews with her about this movie in particular. Yeah, there's reasons why it does seem that way, because it is kind of.
Yeah, of course we're talking about Donald Sutherland and Charles Cioffi. Is that how you'd say that? Okay,
That's how I'd say it.
okay. Cioffi. I'm going with Cioffi.
Or you could like New York it up. Coffee? You want some coffee? Yeah.
You, how many sugars do you take in a coffee?
Yeah. Want some sugar with that? Gonna take it in the car?
Well, that's more Boston, but yeah.
It all runs
Yeah,
together.
it's all stupid.
Yeah, we lived there long enough to be like, huh? Okay, bye. We're going to Arkansas. It's like we just went to the other side of the universe.
I don't know. What do you think? That's like French or something? That's my guess.
Oh, what the weird
Cioffi. No, Cioffi.
That's Italian, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Let me look it up and see if I can find. Yeah, he was born in New York City, went to Michigan State. This was first movie. Did a lot of TV.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm guessing. Is it a movie called Amy's Orgasm? He was also Chairman Prescott and Adam Phoenix in Gears of War 2. He was the voice actor for that.
That's the main character's dad, Marcus Phoenix's dad, I believe.
Okay.
Or maybe it's his grandfather even. I can't remember.
It's a master's degree in theater and arts. Huh.
So he has a degree.
Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, I bet doctorates and masters in theater and arts is actually terribly hard to do because everybody wants to do that.
Yeah. It's also like a lot of time and energy and money, and you're going to make money doing what with that?
Yeah, teaching other people.
There's only so many people that go to Juilliard, like, even not all those people get acting jobs.
I hope this con never runs out.
Yeah, this never is. This is Mobius strip of theater arts, PhDs.
So Act 1, we cut to.
But I don't know how good those are because remember one of those guys told Sigourney Weaver she was too tall and weird looking to act.
Yeah,
like you need to quit acting. It's like thanks. Really boost my confidence.
Oh yeah, it's always weird. I mean, I don't know. It's like those. Yeah, that's always that saying that those who can't teach.
Yeah.
And then you got like, Peter Weller. Was he like teach like history at Harvard or some shit?
Oh yeah, it's something weird like that. Yeah,
He
yeah.
teaches like Middle or no like Roman history like Harvard or something.
Yeah, it's like something like a very specific ancient world type. Yeah.
And I know one of the guys from one of the guys from the State or Stella, like those guys. They're like a writing professor at like Yale or something.
Yeah.
What's other? Is there another Hollywood teacher out there? I can't remember. Those are the two that come to mind. But yeah, it's always weird. I don't know. There's always guest lecturer stuff too, because I believe like Martin Scorsese and Spike Lee are always doing like guest teaching stuff at like NYU and stuff like that.
That would be cool to have. It's like, who's your teacher this semester? Spike Lee. Okay. We learning film theory from Martin Scorsese. Yeah, that education better pay off.
So in Act 1, we cut to a reel-to-reel tape player, which I imagine this is near and dear to your heart.
Oh yeah, I love these little can tape players. I wish they produced the recording quality as presented in this movie because it sounds like it's like, oh, did he just pull out an iPod and hook it up to a speaker? It's like, yeah, they don't sound like that in real life, especially with those microphones and the power requirements those had. It's like, okay, you got 15 minutes, go, and you're like dragging a car battery behind you. And, let's hear what you got. It's like, huh, these things really look cool though. Damn.
There's like a dinner going on. There's like 10 people at the table. I don't know if this is like Thanksgiving or something or just a gathering.
Gathering of the wealthy of Pennsylvania
Yeah.
to bask in their success.
They're all talking over each other. Then we cut to an empty chair. Then we cut to John Klute, Donald Sutherland, and he's being interviewed about a missing Thomas Gruneman. Or is it Grunman or Gruneman?
Gruneman is how I heard it pronounced.
Okay. Which I'm guessing there's at some point they focus on one of the guys. They have like the wife and the husband look at each other. It's like, okay, the husband in that thing must have been Tom. Klute here, or I'm going to call him John throughout my notes. So I'll just say John. Klute's kind of a ridiculous name. Also, it's great because it's like, here he's like in a police uniform, but you don't really know what he does. But essentially, like, he's not a detective who then gets put on a job to be a detective. But see, and then when it's kind of what things are revealed, it seems like he's kind of sent there to fail at the job. So even though they set this up as like Klute, like it's like one of those one-word detective names, like like Shaft or what's the guy with the lollipop?
Oh, Columbo.
No, well, that's one too. But the Who Loves You Baby, that the bald guy, he's got the lollipop.
Oh, I can't think of his name.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Who Loves You Baby? Kojak.
Kojak. Okay. Yeah. No, yeah. Yes. Okay.
But yeah, no, he's none of those things. But it's
No.
So he says that Tom was his best friend. Trita, that's an interesting name.
It is.
Tom's wife is asked about like Tom's sexual proclivities and whether he had like moral ambiguities and sexual desires that were unfulfilled by her or whatever. And then they have like some letters that he supposedly wrote to a sex worker from New York or just a woman from New York. She kind of like holds the letter but doesn't read it, and then Tom reads it, and then he just kind of shoves it aside, not in disbelief, like that doesn't sound like Tom.
Yeah.
And we just cut to a credit sequence. There's a guy, he's like setting up a pocket reel-to-reel player, and I think he's like it has like this little mono speaker that connects to it.
Yeah.
Which I remember something like that. I remember our aunt and uncle had like this like radio that had like this mono, like it didn't have like headphones, it had like a monophone, like just one earpiece you put in to listen to music.
Yep.
So that reminded me of like what this was doing. I imagine this was in mono or something like that.
Yeah. That was probably just one track recorder.
And we hear the voice of Bree Daniels, that's Jane Fonda plays. She's talking about being a sex worker and picking up a client. What you guys hear is like literally be a call girl, which I guess I don't know the etymology of that, but it's like she's literally someone calls her and then she gets set up on a date and gets money. She's a call girl. And let's see here. And then we cut to like some girls are being auditioned for something, like probably for like magazines or like from a makeup ad or something, like some modeling stuff, like hand models, or because they're looking at their hands, so it must be a hand model thing. But they're also looking at their faces, so who knows?
Yeah.
And everybody's being basically everyone. Nobody fits the bill, and it's because obviously Jane Fonda is like incredibly beautiful, and they look at her and she's got funny hands, and then just pass her by. And the camera just kind of stays on her. She's just like really confused, like, what do they want from me? And then it turns out they don't want anything from anybody in this room. It's just a room full of beautiful women from the 70s.
To dismiss, like,
Yeah.
cruelly, like,
Yes.
get out, just...
Which, I mean, that just like immediately points out the frustration of her life, where it's like,
Yeah.
this is the legitimate thing she can do, and it's agonizing in its defeat. Of like, what do you want me to do? I'm like the most beautiful woman in the world, and I'm being rejected. Like, what do you want? But there is stuff like that in Hollywood, even though like a lot of like Hollywood starlets are like incredibly beautiful. There's actually like sometimes it's like there's way more beautiful people, but sometimes there's somebody who's beautiful, but then there's also something just weird about them that makes them different, and then that's the person who becomes the uber hot popular person, and the person that's just traditionally hot goes nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about her that makes her special.
And it might even be a defect. It's all weird, you know. She's got the scar on her chin. It makes her more interesting. um let's see here. Then we cut to back to we're in Pennsylvania. It's John. Oh, Trina is her name. I wrote Trina. I don't know. I don't. Trina, also an interesting weird name. I don't know. That's probably just like short from Christina or something like that. I don't know.
That could be. You never know back then, though. It was a different time.
Yeah.
Different place.
And Peter Cable's here is Charles Siofi, who seems to be just like another friend, but like, you know, he's a guy with money. They're talking to some detectives. I believe this is the FBI. I think there's also like it's like Agent Trask. That's another weird name.
Yeah.
I think that's his only name listed in his credit. He's just Trask.
Yeah, just one word. Yeah,
Klute and Trask are on the case. Here you find out it's been 6 months since Tom disappeared, so that's pretty crazy. It's like, okay, so presumed dead. So yeah, here they're all setting up things where like the FBI is basically like they're giving up on the case. They're like, he's probably dead, and then here John Clute is taking over the case privately. Again, I'm not sure. Like, you know, he's not in his police clothes like he was last time, and then there's a mention later on that like he's not a cop. She says he's not a cop or FBI. He's just a private detective. So I don't know if he like quit the force and filled out the paperwork to be a private eye for this, or if it's just
yeah.
like...
I'm not sure. Like, I think there's a lot of weird choices in this movie with filming and editing.
Yeah.
Because really this movie is overall, I would say, carried by the performances of its two leads versus it's like a murder mystery and a detective movie that's really more interested in the two lead actors than the story.
Yeah.
So it seems like they filmed him in a like a state police uniform just to establish it's like, well, he's got some cop skills. Like, he's not just like an accountant who decides to go to the big city and be a detective. It's like, no, he has some background in law enforcement. But yeah, we don't really know, like, he must really have been this guy's friend just to walk away from like a police pension and job to go through New York, or he's being really well paid. Like, we don't know.
Yeah. Although it seems like he isn't, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. Yeah, I mean that's good here. Like they leave it up. They give you enough clues that you can fill in the blanks for yourself what it means. We're just this is a very much a fill in the blanks movie, but man, those blanks are beautiful.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of shit in here where it's like, oh, did Fincher just steal everything from this guy?
Yeah. Now, once you watch movies like this, you're like, oh, these people, the movies we love now, these people aren't geniuses. I can see where all this, you know, you can do more now and take it a little different places. But yeah, like this is subtly brilliant.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can see all of Seven. I can just see in this movie.
Yep. Oh yeah.
What else was it? Oh, and like just modern or like 80s, 70s slasher films.
Yep.
like the only thing that keeps this from being a horror movie is just like a knife and a weird villain.
Yeah, and there's
And
not really a lot of gore or anything in it
no,
either.
but it has all the tension you expect from a modern horror movie where
Yeah,
it's just
you'd think this was like a hard R-rated movie the way it makes you feel.
yeah, yeah.
It's like, I feel really bad watching this. This must be R-rated. It's like, well, I mean, not for violence or gore, maybe for subject matter, but it's like, why am I guts and knots? You know, that's why I like this guy's, his movies.
And just a crazy discordant not core, score that really
Yeah.
like helps it out by being just weird and creepy and simplistic.
Yep. Very, very Carpenter-esque in its simplicity
Yeah,
and its effectiveness too.
yeah. And that I guess this was the guy that did it was, I'm not sure what else he did, but this was like one of his first movies, and it was a hard ask to convince them that he could do it.
Let's see. He did this, The Parallax View, Marathon Man, and The Star Chamber. So yeah, this
Huh.
guy had an eye for paranoia. I don't know if you've ever seen Marathon Man. It's pretty
Yeah, I see it.
gruesome and yeah, it's a fun movie.
I haven't seen what was the other one? Star Chamber? What's that one about?
That's the one where they who's in it? It's like part of the cast from Alien and Michael Douglas. And James Sicking, I don't know, you remember that guy's an '80s like I'm an everything guy.
Oh.
It's like it's about a guy who becomes a judge in Los Angeles, and then he finds out that there's it has to do with like people that committed really bad crimes but got off for reasons of like technical reasons or whatever, and these judges know about it. They like basically have a secret court called the Star Chamber where they just have these people killed. Yeah.
Okay. Wasn't there something like that in Parallax View?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's all,
you may have made because we did that for Greed Factor when we were covering the Criterion movie channel. So you may have made that reference. I just still haven't caught up to it. So
yeah, I think Star Chamber was a Peter Hyams movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it was kind of
a middling quality, but like a cool concept.
yeah, it's like a lot of Peter Hyams stuff. It's like I kind of like this, but the batter didn't hold together. The cake kind of went flat when he took it out of the oven. It's like, damn, it was almost there.
Well, like Capricorn 1 in 2010 and stuff like that, where it's like 2010 isn't a bad movie, but by comparison, it's a terrible movie.
Oh yeah, good luck with that one. Good luck following that World Series Grand Slam. It's like, hey, we're making a sequel. It's like, okay, yeah. And who's doing it? Stanley Kubrick? No? Oh, okay. Well, good luck.
The book came first. It's like, we don't care.
Yeah, nobody cares. Is it going to be the same? No.
In fact, Stanley Kubrick destroyed everything, so we couldn't follow up on it.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, the model work is not as good, and it's 20-some years later. It's weird. I mean, I like that movie also, but I almost consider it a separate entity. It's like, this is.
Well, it's like also like the cast by virtue of years, like now seems like, oh, this is an all-star cast because it's got like a young Helen Mirren and Roy Scheider and a bunch of other people you recognize. It's like, oh, this is a good cast. So yeah, the FBI talks about following around Bree, and they're like recording her and basically pick her up and charge her with prostitution. I think they call it CP. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
what
I heard
means.
that, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, that reference has changed, because I'm sure that meant some kind of prostitution.
Yeah.
But now if you say CP, it's like, oh, it means something completely different.
Yeah, I thought it was like child prostitution, or I don't know. That was my guess. Like what they usually see.
Well, that's a really hateful character they're creating.
But yeah, I don't know. Or that could have been like a church proclivities.
Yeah. Yeah, the 70s were a more awful and more innocent time at the same time. I think the 70s were a time that the stuff actually going on was way worse than what's going on now.
Yeah,
but the stuff that people think is going on now seems way worse, and the past seems like pleasant and happy. It's like, no, it sucked back then. It
Oh,
was not good.
if everyone had a cell phone in the 1970s, you'd be horrified by all of humanity.
Oh yeah, America would have collapsed if everyone had cell phones in the 70s. It's like we would have just like collectively as a society committed suicide because like there's no justification. There could be no God. This is awful.
I think I also say like she got out of jail by selling out some people. I'm not sure who or for what, but she got out for turning on somebody or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, she lives on her feet basically. She's like, in a dark world she's moving through, and it kind of paints an interesting picture of a person that when you actually meet her, it's like, oh, well, she's not terrifying or evil. She's kind of sad.
Yeah, yeah. And then also they talk about that Bree's getting creepy phone calls of people just calling up and breathing into the phone and hanging up, which is again terrifying.
Yeah, it's stuff that modern audiences would have no. I remember. I mean, that happened to so many people. I remember hearing about. Oh, it's a breather. It's like what? Yeah, someone just calls and just sits on this end of the phone. And it's like, huh, that's weird. Just try doing that now, and they'll just call you back and breathe back at you. You're gonna out creep the creeps now.
But they just text you back, new phone, who dis?
Yeah. Hey, you my number neighbor?
Bree gets we got to Bree. She's like at a payphone. She makes a deal for $50, for being a call girl, and so she meets a guy at a hotel. He says he's from Chicago. He gets her a drink. It's all awkward. She negotiates some more. He whispers something in her ear that we don't hear, and then so she ups the price to $100, and she's like, "Oh, you're so imaginative," and stuff like that.
Yeah, she's really good at selling it. She's selling the drama to these guys.
Yeah.
Which makes her extra sad later on, because it's like, oh, everyone's happy but her.
But she's in control. That's what makes her happy. It's like she'd rather be in control and unhappy than happy and out of control.
Which makes me wonder, like, oh, your life must have been a horror.
Oh, yeah.
You must have had a terrible life, where this seems like, no, this is better by comparison.
Yeah.
And I had to look up like the dictionary of sex terms.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what 50-50 meant. I mean, I kind of had a loose idea, but I just wanted to be sure, like, oh, okay, I've never like negotiated money for sex in my life, so I don't know what's going on here other than the most basic way. And then I looked it up, and it's like, it's exactly what I thought it was. And of course, it led to a also know this and this and this. And by the end of that, I had to wash my hands and sit down and watch the movie again, because I felt like this is terrible.
This is a whole society, or I guess I don't know.
Oh, it is. It's a whole world.
She undresses as he like moves the couch into a bed. It's not like a fold-out couch. It just kind of like comes away or whatever. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, it wasn't like a hide-a-bed. It was like, well, now we got to move this guy. Hey, get on. Maybe that's what he whispered to her. It's like, you've got to help me assemble furniture. Like, oh, that's so creative. That is actually different.
They have sex. She's moaning like, "Oh, my angel," which I don't know if that's like his thing or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm an angel of God. You got to have sex with me so you can have Jesus. And bring about the end of the world. And then she's
like, okay, $100.
Yeah.
Yeah. You must bear the Antichrist. It's like, all right, $100.
So yeah, she's moaning and she's kind of like looking at her watch, like, is the time up yet?
Yeah.
Which also I looked up.
Subconsciously, all men wonder if the people are having sex with her are actually doing that too. That's kind of a nightmare of men, where some girl's like screaming at the ceiling, and really you look behind her and she's like, oh, is it time to go yet?
Which I don't know, like I guess $100 seemed low, but I looked up like, all right, what's the inflation rate here? $100 in 1971 would be about $800 today. It's like 778 or something like that, but still. So, that's like a good week's paycheck in 1 hour.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. We find out later. She says she was living on Fifth Avenue when she was really in the life, as she said.
Yeah.
Before she got scared. And Yeah. So yeah, that's a good payday. Well, it's not if you're having to do that.
I wrote Bree brings flowers to a funeral home, so I don't know if she like lives at a funeral home or if it's just a funeral home is next to her apartment. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of her apartment's very weird, so I'm assuming it was attached to some kind of larger building and it was next to her apartment.
Okay.
But because that apartment she has is like odd.
But there's also a bunch of like old cities that have that stuff where it's like a business was built with a house on top. Like if you ever seen Bob's Burger, like they live above the burger place. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of businesses, especially like in New York, where it's like that's how it's built. I've never seen it like almost in my life, I don't believe, but I've seen it in movies and stuff.
Yeah. It sounds efficient,
Yeah.
but it also sounds like your world becomes a very small, sad place.
Yeah, yeah, you live at work.
Because if I lived above my work, it's like, and you live in a place where you just walk down the street to get groceries, it's like I've lived in the same 4 miles my entire life. It's like that sounds insane to me. So it's like, yeah, but it makes sense. It's efficient. Where do you live? Work. Oh, do you own the business? Oh no, it's much sadder than that.
um So she has some white wine and smokes some weed and puts her feet up, and then she like turns out the lights and like has some candles lit. I can't remember. It's like a voiceover playing, or is she like listening to music or something? I can't remember what's going on here.
There is music playing, but she's doing some version of the Lord's Prayer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she's saying like some Christian hymn or something like that.
Yeah, and you don't know why until later.
Oh, is it
And
part of her role or something?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This is part of this legitimate world she's trying to exist in, but it never quite works out.
Yeah.
Um,
And then we come from that to her in bed, and she's reading and listening to the radio. So you see, people back then were absolutely distracted and couldn't pay attention to one thing either. So,
yeah, yeah. Just because she wasn't staring at a computer screen or a phone doesn't mean that she's smoking weed, burning candles, reading books, listening to the radio. Which I don't know how you can do anything and read a book.
no, I can't do. I can listen to a book and do other things, but I cannot
Yeah,
read and listen to anything else or whatever. Because I am so easily distracted while I'm reading that like I have to basically like I basically have to like read inside of like one of those what do you call those like deprivation tanks or something like that.
yeah. You want to read in a flotation tank,
Yeah.
a little Kindle light. Like, yeah, now I can concentrate. I'm taking in every word.
But even then I can't do it because my imagination will run away and distract myself from the reading. I'll get an idea and then I'll start writing my own story and then I'm like 20 pages in. It's like, oh, I didn't read anything. I was just making my own crap up.
I've been told when I used to read at work that I can come across like a real cock sometimes. Because I'll be reading and somebody will come up and be like, hey, and start talking to me, and I'll just like stare at them for a second. I'm not, I'm just actually disengaging from what I'm reading so I can listen to what they say.
Yeah.
But a lot of people misinterpret that as like, oh, he's annoyed with me and that's why he's staring. It's like, no, I'm just shifting gears here. Or maybe subconsciously I am annoyed that I'm reading a book and you're coming up like, hey, did you hear about this? It's like, obviously not.
Yeah, well, yeah, you just did the mental equivalent of like, oh shit, that's a train, and like pull stop 5 feet from the train whizzing by.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you have to go. Anyways, you were saying. um.
That was always the joke. Like, oh, don't go near Nate when he's reading. So first of all, my name's not Nate, as I've said 50,000 times. Second of all, no, you can come talk to me anytime you want to. It's just when I'm engrossed in what I'm reading, I'm not going to immediately like snap into, whatever this conversational gambit is. Because I don't do people very well. I don't spend a lot of time like, yeah, I can't wait to talk about this or that.
And then I think she turns out the light. Yeah, she turns out the lights and tries to get some sleep. And then she gets a phone call. She answers, and no one's on the other end. I don't think they like project breathing like you expect. I think she just goes hello, and then nobody's there. But then
Yeah,
she,
she kind of carries it with a look on her face and and then the camera's moving and she's like, "Hello," and it's like moving. It's like, "Oh, what are
yeah.
we going to come back to?" It's that kind of
Uh,
technique.
and then she hangs up, and then the phone rings again, and she just sits up in bed, kind of like frozen in fear, kind of.
Hmm.
Um, which that is like this is very simple and terrifying because what I realized here is that like, oh, the phone call is just like a confirmation that you're there and you're alone.
Yep. It's like somebody knows you are there and like there. This is just This is just one part of the equation that you're alone and you're a woman and there's some weirdo that's obsessed with you. And in your line of work, literally could be half the population of
Yeah.
New York City. You have no idea. Which that's got to have. Good night. Good night.
Although with that stuff, she's never really like, oh, I have insomnia. Like that's never. I mean, there is like she does have trouble sleeping, but she's never like seemingly tired from the supposed or what would have to be a bad night of sleep and insomnia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
She seems like more rattled by. She seems more generally sad about the direction of her life rather than the specific things that are going on. Which, as she deals with Klute later on, you start to realize, like, oh, she's like really smart and manipulative. Like
yeah.
that, she is just so used to living, just adapting to situations on the fly. Like, she's not really that rattled. She's probably telling the police she's getting calls just to kind of lay groundwork more than like, oh, I'm really scared. It's like, no, I just want to establish this, because she's always like she's always 3 moves ahead, or at least tries to be.
Yeah. That's that being the end of Act One. We got Act Two. We got it's morning. Bree is making a smoothie and puts out some cat food for the cat.
Do we ever see the cat in the whole movie?
No.
Okay. I
No,
didn't think.
no, no, no. That we do. She's like cuddling with it when Clute comes back with some groceries, and she's like sitting on the floor, and she has like the cat in her hand.
Okay.
I think because there was one part later on where I thought what she was screaming at is like I
Yes.
thought the guy killed the cat, but it wasn't that.
No, it was something almost as bad, but
um. So yeah, she starts doing her makeup when the door buzzer goes off. John is at the door. He wants to ask her questions about Tom, and she's like, oh, so and she asks to see his ID and stuff like that, and he shows it. This is where she says he's a private detective. Although you do see like a badge, but I'm guessing that must be a private detective badge or something like that.
yeah, probably.
No idea. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe that was some editing thing. Maybe that was some post something. I don't know. It's not necessary. He's on the case, so that's all you need. Um, but then she just closes and locks the door in his face, so he
Yeah.
leaves.
Nicely. She doesn't slam it or anything. She's like, oh, okay. Just click. Just walks away. Like, yep.
Bree leaves the apartment sometime later. Clute follows her to some building where she's auditioning for some role. What the hell is this? I wrote there's a buzz at the door. I don't remember what door that's for. I don't know. We got to Breeze at the therapist, which I didn't know
Yeah.
what this was at first. I thought it was like, oh, is that like her madam or something like that?
I kind of thought that myself the first time I watched it, and then I know later. And this was a deliberate last-minute change
Yeah.
that Jane Fonda requested in talking to the director, because she's like, look, Bree would never talk to a man about her problems.
Yeah.
So she's going to talk to a woman. And back in 1971, there were women that were therapists, but it was kind of novel. It wasn't like standard. So it was like, he was like, yeah, that actually makes sense. I never thought about it, because originally it was some dude, which, like, with the arc of her character, it's like, well, she's just going to try to seduce and control this guy with sex too, because that's how she feels safe.
Yeah.
And it's like, it wouldn't make sense she would confess to him. So it's like, yeah, that's a good call on Jane Fonda's part, because it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh yeah, like all the stuff about this role seems like she went really method with a bunch of stuff. Not too
Oh, yeah.
crazy, but like she like did a lot of research for the role.
Well, we can talk about. She did. I'll tell you about, like, she had just got back from India and got divorced when she got offered this movie. She was going through a lot of personal stuff,
Yeah.
And of course, when she talked to the director, he was like, "So what do I need to get you in this movie to play this character?" And she says, "Well, I want to follow call girls and pimps around, and I want to learn about that life." And he was like, "Yeah, okay, well, there's plenty of those in New York." And she did for 2 weeks, and this is again more weird Jane Fonda stuff. She was like, I was standing around with these people, and they were dealing with their johns and making their sex deals, and not one of these men ever looked at me or said anything nice to me or anything. And against, because she has this weird thing, like she's not attractive in her mind.
Yeah.
And it's like, so she thought, she just went to the director and it's like, I'm not right for this role. It's like, I've been around pimps and hookers and johns for 2 weeks, and none of them seem even remotely attracted to me. And he's like, well, calm down. Number one, that's not true. Calm down. And it's like, but we'll let you do it your way. We need you in this role. I want you to do it. So she got to bring a lot of like good ideas to the character
Yeah.
that weren't originally written in the script, which I thought, well, that's cool background. She also described herself as being in the midst of a personal revolution too,
Yeah.
while this movie was being filmed. So yeah, there's a lot of like,
and I guess her and Sutherland ended up dating during this movie, and then quit like fairly quick, like after the Oscars, essentially.
Yeah, she basically like became her character for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to go live with Klute for a while, but we know it's not going to work, right? It's not going
to work. So here's where she's explaining to her therapist that she's like addicted to being a call girl because she can control it versus modeling and acting where she's at the mercy of these people that are awful and won't tell you what they want.
Yeah. Yeah, because her thing is like, I can't be out of control, and the only way I can be in control is to address desire, because that's something I know something about.
And also, like, these guys will tell her what they want.
Yeah.
And the casting directors don't, because they just want to find magic.
Yeah.
They don't know what they want either.
A John and a casting director, the casting director's needs are much more nebulous and also crude and vile, if you can, the old casting couch, about that. But that never comes up in the movie, which would have been
there was a part where it seemed like it was going on, but then there was like a secretary in the room, and then it's like, okay, that's not what's going on. But
yeah, I almost thought is like, this is when her life is going to cross over and she realizes everything's a lie, but it didn't happen. So.
Yeah, weirdly, she never sleeps with a casting director and like manipulates them. Like, I guess that she just those two worlds can't meet.
Yeah, it's too sad. It would just confirm too much about how awful life really is.
But I guess that's the good thing about the anonymity in the 70s is that you could have two lives like that and nobody would know.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays they catch, elementary school teachers with OnlyFans pages all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, back then you could actually do that. Well, wouldn't it be that, but it would be something else.
Yeah. Let's see. She describes about what's enticing about it because she gets control and money, and it's good money. Is it here? Yeah, I think she said she lived in Fifth Avenue or whatever. So it's like, at some point, this was being a call girl was the best time of her life and the most successful time of her life. At least she thinks so. She says it makes her feel good. What do I want to say? Yeah, it makes her feel good, but not physically but she's still physically and emotionally unfulfilled. But she feels good about it, so it's weird.
Yeah.
She also tells her therapist that she can't afford a therapist anymore. So, I assume that's something. I assume that's built into the therapy career. You're needed, but nobody can afford you.
Back right away. It's like, oh, did I fail you? Is that what you're saying? Like the therapist is like doing a turnaround.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I think you have money. And I think that's the therapist is like, you're just trying to get out of this somehow.
Well, even I don't know, her apartment seems kind of neat, but it is, I don't know, would that be a studio apartment? Because there just seems to be one open floor.
Yeah, it's like a kitchen, bedroom, bathroom. Like, yeah, it's just like a one giant room apartment.
But it's still in New York, so like nowadays that'd be like an $8,000 apartment.
Oh yeah, something like 15 people living in it. Somebody'd be living in the weird glass ceilings.
But like according to her, that's a shithole. So
that's a hellhole.
Even though it was like a literal, I don't know, I guess not literal. There was like a hellhole downstairs of like hippies squatting or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like I wouldn't want to leave a lot of possessions in that apartment.
And then also Klute just has an apartment downstairs. That's weird. I didn't get the geography of all that going on there, but
Yeah, it just seems to like show up as like, hey, there's this apartment available right underneath this chick you're investigating. Cool. The confluence of life. It's like, yeah. But it also, it also speeds things along.
Yeah, yeah. Then we cut to Klute's listening to a recording of Bree, so I'm guessing he got these from the FBI. Or actually, I wrote, did he tap her phone, or is that just from the FBI? I'm not sure.
I'm guessing that's like police investigation stuff.
Yeah.
Klute does not seem like a phone tapper guy.
Although he does have this big, like, what was it, Hitachi, like, reel-to-reel player that seemed kind of neat.
Yeah, those are neat. They should bring that back.
Yeah, I hear that, like, the VHS magnetic tape had some really unrealized properties for audio.
I've heard that too, yeah.
Where it's like, if you turn that into just an audio format, you could record so much audio digitally onto a magnetic tape. But yeah, I don't think anybody makes VHS tape anymore.
No, nobody's making media that long. Not when you can put it on something literally the size of your pinky. Like, oh, there's 10,000 songs on here. Like, there's no turning back from that. That's never. No one's going to be like, hey, you want to hear the first 4 tracks of Pink Floyd, The Wall? You got to pull something out. Nobody's going back to that. It's also wildly energy inefficient to have hundreds of things like that running all the time.
We cut to Bree meets with some bald, older, heavyset guy in a sewing shop, which this reminds me incredibly of Killing of a Chinese Bookie, which I think there's something similar. I can't even remember where that takes place. Is that like an LA movie?
I'm not sure. Was that in the garment district of New York? I don't know.
Oh, okay. Is there still a garment district where there's actually literal like sewing like factories in New York still, or is that just now just a term?
No. I actually don't know.
And I
think it's probably more of a term. That was on the Sunset Strip in Los Angeles.
Okay.
But it all kind of looks like the same thing.
Well, I think I don't know. I might be remembering it incorrectly, but I thought there was some weird like sewing factory and Killing of a Chinese Bookie.
Oh, there could be, yeah.
I mean, that just could be a thing that was going on then, till it all got offloaded to like Thailand or whatever. Because I don't know, like, was there like the garment district and the meat packing district? Was that all like is that all like a New York thing, or is that some other city that has the meat packing?
Meat packing was Chicago.
Chicago, okay.
Yeah, because that's where the book The Jungle was based out of.
Okay.
And then you had the garment district in New York, and because New York was always like America's center of fashion, and style. So I don't know if that really actually means they're making garments there, or it's what it's called. I don't think they make clothes in America anymore, unless it's even really expensive stuff. I think they make like a lot of special, like super garments that are like for you want a $500 pair of pants that you can be drugged behind a motorcycle in and you won't get burned up. It's like, they make those kind of things here. And I think they make like uniforms, military uniforms have to be made here, but I think that's it for clothes made in America.
I know America Apparel used to make stuff in America. I don't even know if they're still around. That was a weird company. They might still be around.
I mean, I have a couple pairs of jeans that I paid a fortune for that were made in America.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that have like the gusset, and instead of Levi's where the crotch just goes straight and it's sewn together, they have the gusset in them, and it's like, oh yeah, you can move around and sit a lot more comfortably as a male with that gusset. It's like sewn in there. Levi's doesn't do it because it costs money. But I mean, I paid about $20 more for these jeans than I would Levi jeans, so it wasn't like they were $500 jeans or something. But it's like, well, there's a lot more thought and wear and tear. I would still be wearing them, but I'm not. I mean, now they look like balloon pants on me, but
You're not getting like raw denim $1,000 jeans
No, I'm not
you
doing
can
that.
never wash.
Yeah, just shower in them because I can't really wash them. You're not
I
actually, yeah, you don't really need to wash jeans. You can just air them out.
yeah.
Unless you get them all muddy and stuff, then I don't know what you do. I throw them in the washer.
Oh, there's like people that have like refrigerators and freezers dedicated to like cleaning their jeans. It's like if you can't wash them, just throw them in the freezer. Let all the bacteria get killed by the freezer, and then pull them out.
Yeah, I don't wash my jeans a whole lot. I'll wear a pair of jeans all summer. I mean,
Yeah.
not 30 days in a row without washing them, but sometimes I'll just like hang them up on a hanger and just go try on another
I mean, a
pair.
lot of the jeans I have now are usually kind of like a polyester blend because they just feel better that way, and like so I just
Yeah.
toss those in the washer, so I don't care. Um, oh yeah, so yeah, she's meeting with this older guy. He's kind of heavy set. He's bald. Um, in the sewing shop, he's got like a table and wine set up, or it's like he's meeting her at his place of business because it's at his convenience. And also probably because his wife's at home, even though later on they say his wife's dead, but
Yeah.
then I think it's confirmed that she isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets weird. Yeah.
Or there's confusion because there can be multiple Mrs. whatever this guy's name is. I forget. I wrote it later on. It's like Crabtree or something like that.
Well, no, I think it turns out that he was just lying to her,
Yeah.
and he actually has like a complete life, a son, a wife, and
Yeah, well, I mean, there's two. There's like the junior and the senior, and she gets a call from a Mrs., but it could be the junior's or the senior's wife. I'm not sure.
oh, okay, I didn't think of it that way. I just thought it was like, oh yeah, he just lied to me like all the other men
Yeah,
in my
I mean
life.
that seemed that would seem more obvious. It's like why would he meet her here unless like he can't go home?
Yeah.
Um, but they also talk about this guy that he basically lives at work. It's like well, she says his wife died like 30 years ago, and he hasn't taken a day of vacation in 30 years or something like that. So like he needs some, he needs somebody. I mean, at least that's what she convinces herself of. So
Yeah, it sounds good. Makes her feel like I'm providing more. I'm not just providing sex. It's a
well, actually, I don't think they even actually have sex. Doesn't
no,
she say
probably
that?
not. Probably not. It's probably not at his
Well,
age.
I think he says something like he doesn't touch me, I which either means like he doesn't have sex with her or he doesn't hit her. I'm not sure which.
It wouldn't be surprising if they didn't, just because he probably couldn't at that time. There's no Viagra back then,
Yeah.
so it's probably like he couldn't, but he still wants like a woman to just
Yeah.
be in his company and be nude, and like that's still
Yeah.
exciting. That never gets old for men, no matter how old the body is. The brain's still like 16. So yeah,
Here she tells a story about like being at cons, like film festival, which is obviously a lie, but but here she like makes up a fantasy that she like about lusting after an older man. Like she doesn't like younger men. She like so he's just playing into the fantasy he wants, where he wants to be like sexually desired in some way, and so this is the way that she can build it up for him. Where it's like, oh yeah, that sounds nice. I fit that description. Then we got Klute was revealed to be watching from a distance. Just kind of, you know, he not only a physical distance but an emotional distance.
yeah,
Klute basically has no emotions. He's basically Spock for most of this movie.
yeah. He seems like he is just the super rational guy.
Then we cut to John is waiting for Bree to ask her some questions. We also see someone is watching them from across the street. We cut to Bree lets John into her apartment so he can question her. She says she doesn't remember Tom after seeing a photo of Tom. Bree talks about being a full-time call girl for a year and living in a rich neighborhood. And then the cops started looking after her, and she got in trouble with the law. He mentions about Tom liking to liking to beat up women, and there's a freak who tried to kill her, and it might be Tom or not. Yeah, she doesn't know. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like I don't know. Do you think? Is she setting it and forgetting it with all her clients, or do you think she like literally has so many clients that she can't remember who people are, or she can't remember the people she only like had one time with? Like
Oh
she,
no, the FBI guy said she can do like 300 to 400 a year, which means would put her in like a really high tier of income back then. It's like, huh, okay, must have a lot of money hidden somewhere, but it's also
well, when she says that she can't remember them because she sees so many people, do you think that's true or is that a lie?
that's probably true
Okay.
because people don't see. That's what's weird about like sex workers as movie roles is like that kind of thing usually happens with only like one or two people your whole life. For them, it's a job.
Yeah.
So there's like no intimacy there. There's no passion about it. It's just work. And so it's like everyone looking in from the outside, like even Klute's like, you really don't remember this guy? And she's like, no, I sleep with hundreds of people a year. You know, it's like, that's my job. And he
Yeah.
just, can't wrap his head around that.
How many times have you been checked out with the same cash register person and they have no idea who you are?
Yeah, exactly.
And you gave them money.
Yeah, it was an exchange of money for a service. You don't know who the hell they are. Same with me.
Bree tries to pick up Tom. She's basically trying to give him sex for the tapes for some reason. I don't know why she needs the tapes.
I think she wants to destroy him because she thinks there's like it's something else she can control and take away from the police that
Okay.
might have something on her. Because like no one's capable of copying tapes. But I don't know if that's even really her gambit or she just wants to like, well, if I have sex with this guy, I can control him.
Yeah, yeah.
That seems to be like her MO.
Yeah, but yeah, essentially, yeah. But her whole play here is like if she has sex with him, then she's in control. Then, but she gets a call and sets up another client. They get into the specifics about her being a call girl. And here's also where she stands up for the old guy. He's like, "You were watching me." He's like, "That man, his wife's been dead for 30 years. He needs companionship. He always pays. He never touches me." Which again, she's standing up for the guy, but like I don't know like necessarily for what reason. If that's just her justifying her business. It's like, see, I provide, I provide, like I don't only provide customer service. I'm providing a what do you call that? It's like
service with compassion.
Yeah. I'm providing a what do you call that? It's like I don't know, like a social
Building
necessity.
a relationship with your clients.
No,
like
but
that?
like making the world better by doing her business or whatever. I can't remember what it's called for a reason.
Oh,
For some,
altruistic service.
yeah, something like that. But John doesn't take in her bribes, and so he starts to walk off with her. Oh yeah, here he grabs her and walks off with her. Is like, is he gonna go have sex with her? This is all weird. And he sets her down and quietly says that like he noticed somebody on the roof. So then it's like, oh, this is suddenly all different kinds of weird because it's like, oh, he's not the weird guy here.
I mean, he is, but he's not that kind
He's
of.
not the
weird
weirdest guy in this.
Well, because also you got to remember, like, so he grabs her and puts her on the bed, and she's like, "Oh, is this how it is?" Now it comes out or something, and then he like pulls her close, but he's standing, like her face is in his crotch, and he's like, "Don't say anything. There's someone on the roof." But from the way they're filming it, it looks like, oh, they're about to like have oral sex or something. It's like, oh, there's a lot of weird filming choices in this movie like this, but then someone will say a word of dialogue, and it's like, oh, he's trying to fool someone, but it's like it comes across as creepy as you think it would be because you're supposed to see it from the, I don't know, the stalker's point of view. Yeah.
Also, we got a lot of stark lighting here, which is a lot of this stuff must have been hard to film because film is really, really bad at picking up light. And a lot of these scenes are just like lit by a flashlight. So I don't know what they had to do to get it to work, but it's basically darkness and a flashlight.
Yeah. Which makes the movie like it makes you. It's like a natural jump scare.
Yeah, because it's like
there's a threat. I don't know where it's coming from because it's being shot in a cave with a candle lit in it. Like, okay.
I guess yeah, this was perfectly built up for a jump scare. Like I thought at any moment you're just gonna see some guy saunter through the flashlight, this, and then like you can't find him again, and then it's like, no, where is he? Where is he? There's a danger. We know they're here. But this is where we get like the creepy piano music that just has like these breathy noises behind it.
Yeah, it's you know it as soon as you hear it.
Yeah, it's very discordant and weird. It's very effective though. So it's again it makes it more like a horror movie than just this kind of detective noir 70s thriller. So John goes to the roof to investigate. He gets a revolver and a flashlight. John calls out for Tom, but nobody answers. Well, yeah, this time he like moves to like the basement. He kicks in a door where there's like some like hippies squatting or something. I don't know what's going on here, but they're not in danger. But he's pretty sure somebody was on the roof and they had ill intentions. Um, so then they set up that they're gonna go meet Frank tomorrow. We cut to John watches over Bree so she can feel better, sleep, and have some other strange person watch over her.
Yeah, some dude. I kind of know you.
You're the creep I know.
Yeah.
I don't know who the creep on the roof is. Uh, then we cut to like Peter's like listening to a recording of Bree with a client. Uh, I don't know. This is stuff that's very Fincher, with just this guy sitting at a desk looking somber. And there's just like weird silhouettes and stuff. And this is super Fincher-esque. Even though this guy did it first, so I'm just gonna say it's very Fincher-esque. And it's like you almost go too far with it because it's like at this point it's like, well, obviously this guy's the killer.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, this movie's too smart. This must be a misdirect. And it's not.
No. Yeah. At the end, you're like, damn. That's why my overarching opinion of this movie is like it's the most interesting part of the two main characters.
Yeah,
Like, the story's kind of like, eh.
Then we cut to John and Bree meet with Frank, played by Roy Scheider, and he was her pimp. So that's
Roy Scheider as a pimp is kind of weird.
Yeah,
and a drug addict apparently too.
Yeah, he had a lot of weird roles that seemed like he wouldn't be appropriate for. I don't know. I guess he was trying to do things, but he always seemed like you should just be a cop or whatever.
Yeah.
Frank says one of his sex workers, Jane, was like setting up Bree with the guy who beats on women, and then Jane committed suicide. And they start talking about Arlen Page, and so that's who they need to talk to next. But everyone just says she's a junkie and you can't find her, so he doesn't get any direction on where Arlen Page is. So then they just leave. John asks Bree if he knows where Arlen Page might be, and so again she just says she's a junkie. Then John gives the tapes to Bree as basically as payment. It's like, well, you did what I asked you to do, so here you go. And then she just tosses them in the trash. So
Yeah.
Which does somebody fetch them later on, or are the recordings that Peter has his own? Well, I guess no. Yeah, I guess no. Or were the recordings that Peter listened to? Is that not Bree? Is that Arlen Page?
I think that's his recordings with her.
With Bree or Arlen?
With Arlen.
Okay. Okay, so I must have I probably missed that, I guess. Then we cut to Bree's auditioning for a role. She's trying out an Irish accent. I guess she's auditioning for Joan of Arc and thought it would be cool to do an Irish accent. So
Which is once I found out that, it's like, I thought she was French.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, you just try something new and interesting. And at some point, the casting director just cuts her off and has her leave as somebody else comes in and tries out for the role. And this wasn't even for a movie. This is for like off Broadway or something like that. Let's see. Yeah, John's still hanging around. He needs her help to find Arlen Page. She wants money. He says he only has $100 to give her, so she asks him to buy her coffee. So I don't even know if she takes the $100 or if she just like feels sad for him. It's like you're a private detective, and the best you can do is $100. uh, then we cut to Bree and John meet with like a madam that was working with Arlen, and then the madam said she had to let her go because she was just trouble, just doing too much drugs. Here the madam offers the Bree a job back, so so
Yeah.
she's still in, yeah, she's still you know in need, or she's still in want, or people need her services. So which I don't think she's necessarily independent, because I think someone is forwarding her calls for her clients. But I don't know who's doing that currently. But it's not this person here, so I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like a different lady.
Yeah. Um. They get sent to a club to look for Arlen Page. They find Arlen's ex girlfriend, who isn't much help, but then who basically says, she's dead to me, but she finds another woman, so it's okay. Um, I think that might be. No, I think it's later on. Then we cut to the police station. Bree's going through photos of dead women to try to find Arlen, which I guess this was really upsetting for.
Yeah, I guess those are real police photos of dead women
Oh,
too.
okay.
That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not. That's one of those things. It's like, well, I can't really ask anyone involved with it, but
Well, I heard this is like really like uncomfortable for Jane Fonda, and like basically all the emotions in this scene are just real.
yeah. Well, I would probably have emotions if someone showed me a picture full of pictures of dead women and like, yeah, all these people prostitutes, unsolved murders. Like,
Yeah.
what? This many? Oh my god.
Yeah, it's basically never ending. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's just like it's like if you offset them a little bit and you did it like rapidly, like they would move, like like those old moving pictures.
yeah, and it's women of all ages and races and
Yeah.
everything. It's like, oh, it just doesn't end.
And some of them have like a lot of facial bruising, or you can tell how they died, and it's like, wow.
um. Then we cut to Bree shows up at John's place, which is basically just like on a basement apartment in the same place her place is.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, just a walk away. Like she shows up under her pajamas, which is kind of fun. So yeah, she says she can't sleep at her house. She's like, can't get to sleep, thinking that there's somebody gonna get her. And so he offers up his bed in his apartment, and then she's like, "Where are you gonna sleep?" And there's just like this weird rollaway bed underneath that bed. So
Yeah. There's just beds all over the place in this world.
although the weirdest thing is like nobody grabs a blanket. They're just like, "I'm laying on a bed and going to sleep." And it's like, that's never gonna happen.
You're gonna get cold.
Even if it's like hot, I still just need to have a blanket on.
Oh yeah, no, I just do a sheet.
Um. Bree. Sometime in the middle of the night, Bree climbs onto John's bed and initiates sex. Um. And then they have like the after sex, and John's kind of weirded out by this, but Bree seems happy because it was all a setup to test his virtue or something, and so it's now she's in control because she conned him into sex, because she could sleep, she just immediately leaves and goes back to her apartment to go to sleep. So it's like this is no problem for her. At least that's what she says here. I don't know.
Yeah, she actually says that too.
Yeah.
Like,
You know, if it's true or if that's just her like trying to get. She might still be completely afraid of the weird guy that's watching over her.
yeah, again, she seems to be a woman like who's willing to be in control through do a lot of different gambits, and things don't bother her until they're like right in her face.
um, then we cut to John and Bree talk with another madam looking for Arlen. So even though they've had this kind of seemingly like oh that must they must be done with each other, like they're still like, we're on the case.
Yep, back to work. Come on, sweetheart, we got a murder to solve.
um but I don't know, I mean, them having sex kind of like also makes John a bit more interesting, where it's like he's not just the straightforward man, like he can be seduced.
Yeah,
But then he
yeah,
just
he's
goes.
not like there's no lingering doubt. Like, is John gay?
But then he can just go back to being like a square. But there is
Yeah.
like he's still like a human being. He's not just like some complete Boy Scout. So, um, here's what that madam says that there's like the she says that Arlen's hanging out with some man who's like on drugs, and so like they're just having a bunch of troubles. So then they find Arlen at some apartment, but she's like extra suspicious because they're saying some name, but like they aren't them, and they're clearly on drugs. Um, Here they interview him. They're asking whether Tom was the freak, and then Arlen says it was an older man. And then their drug dealer shows up, but then then he runs when they see John, and then they both go running out, try to chase down the drug dealer to pay him for drugs.
Yeah. Hey, don't run away. He's not a cop.
And then they come back defeated, and then like the guy's like going through withdrawals, and Arlen has like a wet rag on his head and stuff like that. So um, uh, John leaves, and then Bree kind of hangs around for a moment to be angered and scared by like I guess she sees like Arlen has her ghost of Christmas future or something like this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely seemed like the foreshadowing kind of shook her up a little bit.
So they're driving back to the base, and Bree jumps out of the car suddenly and runs off to a club. I believe this is a club where Sylvester Stallone is one of the dancers.
Yeah. Sylvester Stallone's doing his Chippendales routine.
She's hitting on a bunch of guys at the club. You don't hear anything that anybody's saying to each other here. It's like all just loud noises, and you don't hear any of the conversations. I guess is an interesting choice. She crosses paths with some hippie that she might be familiar with, but again, you don't hear what they say to each other. They just seem to be like, "Oh yeah, you okay?" Yeah. And then there's Frank sitting at a booth. So either he's a part of this scene, or this is his party. I have no idea. So she goes and sits against Frank. John shows up and sees them together, and so he's just annoyed by this and leaves. Then we cut to John meets with Peter to give him an update on the case. He's talking about like he needs to find the freak who's beating on women, and he doesn't think it's Tom. And then he leaves, and Peter closes there's like this giant automatic door. It's more like an automatic wall that closes, and it just has the moon landing on it.
It's kind of cool and weird at the same time.
You also get the shots of New York and sort of like silhouette and stuff like that, and like all the cranes on here. It's another very Fincherest thing here. Let's see here. Yeah, we have recordings of recordings of Bree play, but this could be an Arlen one. I'm not sure. John shows up at Bree's place again. He checks her over for some reason. He's like, "Put your head down." So I guess here she's doing some sort of harder drugs or something like that, where it's like there's.
I'm guessing he's thinking it's heroin.
Yeah,
because that's what makes you sick like that after you do it for a weekend or whatever.
Oh, okay.
At least if we learn from Train Spotting anything, it's like you get really sick if you quit doing it.
Well, I thought he was looking for injection sites, but then he tells her to like put her head down, and I'm like, I don't know who does drugs in their back, but okay, but I don't know. So I don't know what was going on there, but I guess what you're saying makes more sense to just kind of make you less sick by being in a certain position, I guess.
Yeah. And he'd know that because he was a cop and he's dealt with enough junk.
He's a Pennsylvania cop.
I've never seen anyone coming off heroin. I've seen alcoholics that like start coming down.
Yeah.
Like guys at work, like I'm gonna quit drinking, and like 4 hours later they're screaming. It's like, oh, it's here. I just a little bit, just a sip. Yeah, you're good.
John watches over as like she doesn't sleep well, which they should have had like John being like hooked on coffee or something like that, because it seems like John gets like 1 hour of sleep every day in this movie.
Yeah, John, there's not a lot of good quality rest going on in this movie. There's a lot of like waking up in the middle of the night and having sex, and we're gonna just sweat out the dope one night while someone else just sits in the kitchen bedroom and watches.
Then we
didn't see like dead babies climbing across the ceiling. So it wasn't quite the withdrawal scenes that were of earlier, but
Or they didn't have crabs crawling after the sharpshooter.
Yeah.
um, that's therapy time once again. I think there's like other shots. I don't think they actually show what's going on here, but I forget what else they're shooting. Bree's basically talking about like she wants to exist without existing. Like can I just like exist, but nobody knows where I am or what I'm doing, and they can't see me? It's like,
They want the therapist to be like, so have the mushrooms worn off completely yet, or are we still? What's going on here?
Then we cut to John's going after Jane McKinnon to try to find clues. I guess he's going somewhere. She's committed suicide, so somebody has like whatever like was left behind, but there's basically nothing there. He even says out loud, "I thought there'd be more," but so that just ends up being a dead end.
And weird, like, not much left from the life of a junkie. But they don't say that, but it's almost.
Oh,
like
was Jane also a junkie?
Well, that's what they said.
Oh, okay. Or does that just go hand in hand? Like, you're a prostitute and also a junkie. Like, those things are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, I kind of that's a vibe I got.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but
Then we cut to John and Bree are like weirdly hanging around again. It's like, um, John sits with her and like strokes her face, and they start kissing. Then we cut to the cops are pulling a body out of the river. It's Arlen Page. John starts talking with the boyfriend or whatever he is.
yeah,
But he's just looking for
him.
He's like, yeah, my baby girl's down. I gotta get up. And it's like, so even though like his girlfriend or whatever, or maybe daughter,
This guy just needs to fix.
yeah. But yeah, whatever. It's thing important, seemingly important to his life. A human person important to him died, and all he needs is drugs. That's a great way of summarizing the terribleness of drugs.
Well, I never got into like narcotics. I like to drink my drugs.
Then we cut to John's like writing down all the info. So this is basically him thinking onto a piece of paper without saying all this stuff out loud. And basically he thinks that like the guy may have killed Jane, Arlen, and Tom all together. So that's what he's putting together. Then we cut to John is walking with Bree as they like. Oh wait, no. Oh, John walks into Bree's apartment with groceries. I think this is where she's with the cat, but she says Trask wants John to call him because I forget why. He found some. I think it was either something about Arlen or something like that.
Yeah, it had something to do with Arlen. Yeah,
I think it might have been like the autopsy or something like that, if they even bothered to do one. Some more therapy time with Bree. Bree's giving into the idea of like having a relationship with John, but like looking for every excuse to end their relationship. That's not really a relationship. So commitment issues here. And then I think we come back to Jane's apartment. Jane gets a call, but turns down the client because like John's there. So she's like, but we also cut to the freak watching from across the street. Bree and John are in bed together, and then we cut to them going out to shopping at night, like for peaches and like vegetables and stuff.
Yeah, it's some kind of weird night market in New York. Let's go to the 24-hour fruit vend. It's like, what? That's city that never sleeps. Okay.
Bree's kind of weirded out by the normalcy of it. I'm weirded out by the abnormalcy of
it. I'm like, what's seeking night fruit in New York? That's what we should, just call the movie Night Fruit.
Is that movie about gay people? No.
You just play the Kavinsky night call and drive, but it's just have the modulated voice. Going after some night fruit.
The softest peach night fruit.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, but this is also out in the open. It's like, also at this time, New York is just a absolutely dirty city that smells of pee and everything. It's
Oh,
like,
it's Escape from New York, New York.
let's get our peaches and celery.
Yeah.
They must be in season. Um, they get home and like the doors open, so like John notices that and like kind of pushes her back and goes in first. The place is trashed. The mattress is cut up and stuff. Here I wrote she's put off by some rag that's on the phone or something, and then like this is where I thought like, oh, it killed the cat, but it's like no, there's just, well, it's a white rag, but she somehow, well, I guess she would know. She
It's
has,
all her. It's underwear. It's ladies'
yeah,
underwear.
oh yeah. Some guy put semen in her underwear without her knowing.
And she's freaked out about it.
Yeah.
Like screams. It's like, lady, you're a sex worker. And you're the sex worker at the best time in American history. Remember? Mid-Coke, pre-AIDS. It never got any better than that.
There's a call and it's a playback of, well, I guess this would be Arlen, I guess, on the phone, and here she's freaked out by that. Which I thought it was her on here, but it has to be, but this is Peter doing it, so this must be the Arlen tapes or something like that. John calls Trask and expects them to, so Trask is going to come by tomorrow to like investigate the apartment. So she stays in John's place, but she's also looking around for other places to go. So that being the end of Act 2. We got Act 3. There's a Bree. Actually, again, I don't know if this. I wrote Bree voiceover. This might be Arlen again. And Peter is like creepily looking over the city. He's just like stone faced, listening to this as the city just exists as like a ghost of itself. Like it's dusk, nobody's around. The cities are in like a shimmer. Like they have both like smog and like morning dew, and it just looks like it's covered in lifelessness. Like
Yeah.
it's just covered in something that's tearing itself apart. There's always boats that look like they're like from World War II and they haven't been decommissioned yet, and they haven't been replaced by new stuff yet. And even the new stuff looks like it's falling apart.
Yeah, the new stuff was like started to decay before it was even delivered.
And we cut to Trask who's like comparing notes and like like literally comparing notes from typewriters. And it's cool how he puts it all together. He sees like how people like mistype things, or how hard he can tell how hard people hit certain keys because of their typing style. Like, yeah, this guy hits he hits the keys harder with his middle fingers and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And basically, Trask is able to figure it out that Peter is the guy who wrote these notes to Bree. So it's like, oh, Peter's the killer. But like, could there be something more complicated? Nope, that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, you're always hoping for.
So John meets with Peter and tells him if he can get.
Does that count as a misdirect though?
What?
Is it a misdirect if it's like, no, they obviously said who it was, you just didn't want to believe?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Well, there's always the initial thought is Tom is out there somewhere being a creep without a job, without a home.
Yeah.
Which I guess in the 70s you could do those things.
Oh yeah.
I stowed away $50,000. I can go away and be a secret creep for 3 years.
Yeah, that's a decade-long creep money.
I'm gonna fulfill my fantasy and then just walk back home like nothing happened because it's the 70s and you can do that thing.
Yep.
So yeah, John meets with Peter and tells him if he can get $500, they can get Jane's black book. Like it's apparently someone found it, it's up for sale. I wrote this might be a ruse, and it ends up being a ruse. Or it could have been true, but anyway, I assumed it was a ruse here.
Well, because it was never mentioned until that point. It's like, well, this is him trying to set this guy up.
Yeah.
Which, like in any other movie, this is when you'd be like, well, this movie sucked because it was so obvious. But again, this movie, for some reason, it's like, no, it works because I like I like the two main characters.
Yeah. Here he says they analyzed the semen to determine that Tom wasn't the freak because he had different blood types. So that's good. It's like, well, Tom's eliminated. So again,
Yeah.
they're just telling you this guy's the killer every time. There's no mystery. Peter says he'll wire the money when he gets to Chicago. It's like, okay, why can't you do it now? It's like, well, I need him off to business. Which there seems to be a lot of business between New York and Chicago going on, which I'm sure in that time there was a thing, The good old
Yeah.
traveling businessman.
Oh yeah. Well, you could have like multiple families around the
Oh,
country.
yeah.
I mean, you could move a town away and become somebody else.
Yeah, that's really why all these like businessmen want to end work at home stuff because they want to travel around and see their mistresses again.
Yeah, they gotta get the seed delivered.
What's a Teams call compared to a hooker?
Yeah.
There's no comparison.
Someone's got to keep these hardworking prostitutes in business. Can you imagine like doing that? Like calling someone like, "Hey, I'm gonna pay you money to have sex. Let's meet at a hotel." It's like, oh yeah, there's no way I could carry through with that one. Even if I like wasn't married or anything, it's just like I could not do that.
Yeah.
You have to be so nuts on some level to like, well, I might lose one of my kidneys tonight or have great sex. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm either going to get robbed or have sex. It's like, what's going to show? Because you can call anyone you want to on the phone. It's like, you don't know who's showing up.
Yeah. Let's see here. What the? Oh, Bree's picking up her place because I guess the FBI had went through and investigated everything already, so she's cleaning up. Frank is hanging around. John shows up and he feels betrayed by this because, like, hey, don't let him help you out. Like, it's going to be you giving him all your money and you being on drugs. That's all. It's all having a pimp has. There's. I've never seen any benefit in any portrayal of the pimp lifestyle where where the working girl is ever in any advantage. It's like I'm guessing all the pimp provides is a sense of like reliability and like sort of like a bodyguard that takes all your money.
Yeah, I think it's like a protection racket.
Yeah.
But it always ends up into being some kind of weird abuse.
Because there's the couple of great documentaries called "Pimps Up" and "Hose Down."
Yeah.
And all of them say it's like, so what about paying your working girls? And it's always never pay them. Like that's the lifestyle. That's the whole business con is never pay your workers. And people are like, yeah. Like,
yeah, in corporate America, it's like, yeah, you're right. That's what we need to do. We need to build a whole society around that.
Yeah, and then you get the
because like I learned from what was it? What was that movie? Idiocracy. About the guy who like was researching people to put in the pods, and he was like researching prostitutes. And he was like the whitest white guy ever, but he knew all about pimp culture. He was explaining to the general, it's like, but a pimp's love is a different kind of love. It's a powerful personal love. It's based more on feelings and less transactional. It was some kind of dialogue like that.
Well, I remember those documentaries. That's where the reveal of like, why do pimps have all this extravagant jewelry? It's like, I guess it's something where it's like if you get booked, if you have money on you, then that's considered like a part of the crime. They can take that away, but they can't take away like jewelry as possession or whatever.
That's amazing. I love those stories.
And then also you could turn that jewelry around and give it to like, the what do you call it? What's the
pawn guys? Yeah.
Well, pawn guys and what's the guys that get you out of jail that pay your fee?
Oh, the bail
bondsman. Yes, you can give a bail bondsman like a gold chain, and they're like, all right. I forget Mr. T's thing. I forget his thing. His thing was different, where it's like he was a bouncer, and people would like constantly like lose their jewelry, and he would just wear them, and then when people would come up to the club, he'd be like, hey, did you forget this? I think that's Mr. T's thing.
Oh, okay. That's why he just has like 800 pounds.
Yeah, they're other people's jewelries. He was waiting to return to them.
That actually, now that's cool. That makes sense. Like
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you didn't spend your money to look that cool. It just like happened organically. That's amazing.
yeah. Well, I mean, all if you look up all of Mr. T's stuff and the explanation for all of his weird like kind of aura, it actually all has like very like likable and like a positive background to it. It's like, why do you call yourself Mr. T? It's like, so people respect me. They always have to call me Mr.
Yeah.
Great relationship with his mom. He seems to be nothing but a positive figure, even though he was a completely ridiculous person. So
Yeah.
and he beat up Rocky that one time.
Yep. Well, I'll remember that.
So John begs Bree not to like get help from Frank, and then John just starts a fight with Frank. It's just a weird fight, and then Bree stabs John, but you don't really know how hard. But John just silently walks out. He's like, yeah, I am in the wrong, and but you stabbed me, but so I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
But like none of this is said. He just leaves.
Okay. I've earned this stabbing. And now I will go into the night.
And then Bree goes out and looks for John, but then she just walks away when she can't find him. There's like a music sting here, and then you see like someone's following Bree. It's the creep. Bree shows up the therapist, but she isn't there, so she's trying to set up an appointment. Bree calls from this here from this. I think from here she calls up Mr. Goldfarb, saying she needs a place to stay. So that's one of her most trustworthy clients. So she'll go there. Then we cut to like John calls Trask saying that Peter didn't get on the plane to Chicago. So that's like, okay, again, they're just telling you he's the killer. They're looking, yeah. So now they're all looking for Bree because they think she's in danger because she is. Bree shows up at the textile factory. Goldfarb Sr. isn't there, but he leaves an envelope of money for her. This is also where the secretary gets like a call from Goldfarb's wife, and here I'm not sure whether because the junior shows up. He's like, "Hey, Matt, hey, lady, what are you doing?" So I don't know if that the wife on the phone is the senior Goldfarb or the junior Goldfarb, but it'd be sadder if it was the senior because that meant he lied to a sex worker.
I'm thinking it's the senior, but yeah. And also, it's funny that Jean Stapleton is the secretary.
Oh, who's she?
Just like Archie Bunker's. She just sounds just like her Edith Bunker.
Oh, okay. I didn't put that down. Okay.
Yeah, no, so I was thinking, she's like, I gotta get home. Archie needs the supper. I can't be late.
So the factory starts closing up, and everyone leaves, and Bree stays after to like leave a note for Mr. Goldfarb. The camera kind of stalks Bree from a distance. Bree calls and leaves a message for her therapist again. And then we cut to like the first direct shot of like his face of Peter stalking Bree. So again, just saying he's the killer. So
yeah. Hey, everyone who wasn't paying attention, guess what? This is the killer.
Then we also like she's walking off, and we see her kind of like go wide eyes here, and like Bree presumably sees Peter. We cut to John calls the therapist looking for Bree, but of course the secretary's like, I can't give out like personal information about this. He's like, yeah, I know, but she's in danger. Come on, I'm a guy on the phone.
I'm a cop. Help me out. Don't make me prove it. Just give me the name. Just give me the
name. No one's gonna know. It's not being recorded.
Yeah. Well, it's the 70s. I can call you on the phone at home and breathe, and they'll never catch you. How do you think they're going to know we had this conversation? Just give me the name. Bitch, give me the name.
I guess I should say, I thought one thing I knew about Klute is that Jane Fonda dies somewhere in the movie.
Oh, okay. No.
So this was a surprise to get to the end of the movie. It's like, oh, she's still alive. I thought Maybe that's because the poster has like a phone off the hook. I thought there was something where like somebody gets strangled with a phone cord, and but that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, well, this smears together with so many movies of its time.
Yeah.
It's just like these are the good ones, but yeah, there's a lot of
Or maybe I'm thinking of like a Hitchcock. Was there one called Rope or Cord where that's like a scene or something from it?
I'm trying to think of movies that involve phones, and I think when a stranger calls, someone gets strangled with a phone cord.
Okay.
Because but I could be wrong, because I think the phone, of course, is the main instrument of terror in that movie.
Yeah.
Because it's like the cops call her back. It's like, we've traced the call. It's inside the house. Which would actually be a nightmare.
Then we cut to Bree is sitting in the office at the textile factory, and Peter's just talking to her. He turns out the light. He's talking about needing to keep his reputation. He can't be associated with sex workers. His it'll like the people use it against him, and like he'll lose that business.
Yeah. Which, like, no, you wouldn't if you had money and you were white in the 70s. It's like you could do anything you want.
You can't get canceled in the 70s.
Yeah. People would probably give you more business. Like, hey, good for you.
Hey, what's your secret?
I'd be like, God, Peter, save some pussy for the rest of
it. Here he's mentioned about the black book. He's like I employ Klute, so I'll give you more money if you get the book from him and give it to me. She's like, okay, but here's what.
This is where she's smart, because she has no idea what the hell he's talking about. It's
yeah,
like, yeah.
And here he apparently he must have some emotional intelligence, so he's not completely like psychopath, but he can read her facial. It's like, oh, you don't know what I'm talking about. John set me up.
Well, he's like the guy in Star Trek: The Next Generation. When they bring him, he's like the businessman from the 20th century that gets thawed out.
Yeah.
And he helps Picard negotiate with the Romulans because he's a businessman, and he's like, these guys don't know what they're talking about. Because it was about the first time the Borg were encountered.
Oh, okay.
And in this like the 20th century businessman can like help Picard because he knows when people are lying. Because all 20th century commerce was based on deception. Because remember, greed is good. From Wall Street. So yeah, this is a businessman's intuition again. It's like, I know this whore's lying to me because I've been lied to by whores my whole life. That's why I kill them.
The phone rings and Peter just holds down the phone so she can't answer it, and then it stops ringing. A good bit of business here, because like they don't talk to each other. It's like the phone
this goes on for like 15 minutes of him like terrorizing this woman with different tools and just his physical presence.
I mean, this is something we don't have anymore, but this is patient filmmaking from the 70s, which we would call boring modern filmmaking.
Yeah, well, some of us will. I actually enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, I do too.
But it's like, oh, this is cool.
But I mean, like I enjoyed it watching by myself. This would be infuriating in a modern theater, just sitting there in silence and like
people would be staring at their phones, making farting sounds. It'd be like, killer, just that kind of crap.
Yeah.
People are morons because everyone's a comedian nowadays. Everyone's the funniest person you've met. Trust me, they can't wait to tell you.
Peter admits to killing 3 people, like Tom, Arlen, and Jane. So like Jane was ruled as a suicide, but it was he just killed her.
I do like the Peter Cable dialogue. It's like, Gruneman would find out that I was with this woman and use it against, or no, that I killed this woman and use it against me. And I'm like, use it against you? He'd go to the cops. He'd be like, he killed someone. It was like, maybe Gruneman needed to die if that's like his out mode for that. It's like, I will use this to manipulate Cable. I know that he strangled a woman to death with his hands.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to use this as leverage to get promoted. It's like, no, he's going to go to the cops because that will also get you out of the way and be the right thing to do. But yeah, and Peter, I don't know if that's Peter's mind or that's how Gruneman really thought it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was kind of a weird dialogue.
You get no insight into what Tom's life is.
No.
It's just put under like microscope that he might have had a secret life, and then it turns out he didn't. So
No, he just knows that this guy killed a prostitute, and he's like, I don't want him to get leverage over me. It's like, I don't know if leverage is the thing here. I think he's just gonna like go to the cops, like, yeah, this lunatic killed someone with his bare hands. It's like, and recorded it, and plays it back for his pleasure later. It's like, that's even worse.
Here also Peter calls call girls lazy, which everything for this movie is like anything but. It's like
it's like they're working hard.
Yeah,
to do
it's
things.
hard work to look good and to like set up all these business acumen and not get caught by the cops, like, and to be on drugs the whole time. That's a hard life to juggle.
Yeah, I haven't done any one of those things successfully, let alone 4 of them.
Yeah. He's also mad. He says like, yeah, these women take advantage of men's fantasies. It's like, all right, whatever.
Well, only if you let them. I mean,
then here Peter plays the tape of a conversation he had with Arlen Page. As he like chokes her or beats her to death or something. It's all up to you. It's what it means. Because she's
nothing good based on the way she's screaming. It's not.
Yeah, well, because you'd think you choked her, but then she's like screams and then it suddenly stops and she's dead. So it's like, well, that's got to be like some sort of just blunt object hit over the head, but no idea. So
yeah, I'm guessing he was beating her to death with a hammer. Was my guess.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I mean, that's horror. Like, that would be. That's nightmare fuel. I mean, it was a snuff tape, literally an audio snuff tape. Which I guess Jane Fonda didn't want to hear the tape until the actual filming.
Oh, okay.
And her reaction was genuine.
Oh yeah, she just is crying, and like snot is coming from her nose.
Yeah,
it's like, fuck.
Well, I guess they played it through a really loud speaker.
Yeah.
So it was like a 1-2 punch for the actors, because it wasn't the audio that was in the movie, but I guess they played it to like a really loud speaker, and her reaction was genuine.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think they had to reshoot some stuff with Peter Cable, because I think he jumped a few times when it was. I heard that. I don't know. It's like they had to like do some split shots there because it was like so loud. He was like, "Oh God."
But yeah, I mean, this is like a physical and literally emotionally draining scene here. So, as she's also like, he's gonna kill me. He's basically incriminating himself as a
yeah. This is what the villain does before it's like, I expect you to die, Mr. Bond. You know, it's like you're not walking away from this.
This is his appetizer to his meal, his murder meal. Then we hear Arlen screaming on a tape as she dies from something, which also means like this tape is from like, I don't know, like 2 days ago or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know how this guy like put all this together and where he did it, but that's not really important in this movie.
And then Peter jumps at Bree, and a struggle ensues, and he kind of like chokes her. Then John shows up, and then Peter just hauls it out the window and just jumps face first through a window.
Yes, the weirdest, like, because the way it's filmed, you don't know. It's like, oh, did Klute like push him backwards through that window? It's like, no, that was just his suicide. He just jumped through the window. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, I didn't assume. I thought this was a first floor thing, so I don't know how high up everything is. Like, you don't see him ever again. They don't show him dead, so it's all. I guess it's up to you.
Yeah, they didn't do a full Nakatomi where he's like slowly falling. It wasn't no Hans Gruber coming off the building in that one.
So. We cut to John and Bree. They're like, she's like gathered up most of her stuff out of the apartment, and then they're leaving. There's voiceover from a therapy session. The phone rings. She picks it up. It seems to be a former client, and then she's kind of, I think she talks to him and says like she'll be out of town and she won't be coming back, and they just leave, and then credits.
Yeah, in the voiceover, she says again, she reiterates like she's gonna go crazy and having a traditional relationship with Klute.
Yeah,
but she doesn't think it's gonna last. But then we have the juxtaposition of she gets a phone call, picks it up, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm leaving the life." Essentially, that's kind of like her farewell speech.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't know which way it's gonna go. I mean, you can be pretty sure she's Probably not.
you would like things to go better for her, but
Yeah, they're
there's
gonna have like 14 children and just live happily ever after. He's
but
gonna get his job back at the Pennsylvania State Police.
but there's nothing in this world that suggests that anything good will happen to them. So
Or in this movie.
yeah. I mean, I guess if she goes to Pennsylvania, it'll be boring enough that it's like, oh yeah, this worked out.
Yeah. I mean, she wants to be something else, and she's obviously smart enough to be something better.
Yeah.
Because she's very close to being what I call the pretty woman prostitutes, which is like the totally unbelievable
Yes.
prostitutes that are like, oh, I'm happy. It's like, no, that's never the real story. She's gritty enough, though, and she's like a really intelligent person that must have had horrible early life experiences that led her to this.
I
I
mean,
mean, you don't know.
I
But
mean,
you can kind of infer.
I don't know what the real estate market in the 70s was like, but it seems like she'd be good at it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, just sell yourself, and then you happen to sell a $100,000 building to someone. So.
Yeah, literally, it's like there's like there's a porn industry built around real estate. They call that Rule 34. It's like anything can be sexy given the right circumstances.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a real interesting, real 70s movie. I only heard about this guy, or this is like Steven Soderbergh's favorite movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if like I don't know if I never necessarily see like the influences, because Steven Soderbergh makes so many different kinds of movies that he's not really beholden to one style. So it's not like Soderbergh stole everything from Klute. It's just one of his favorite movies. So
yeah.
But like I said, a lot of Fincher in this though.
Yeah, I mean it's influence. It's 70s noir crime, with just kind of really compelling, great main character actors.
Yeah.
In a story that kind of like is serviceable to their performance, but not a perfect movie, but definitely some really great performances.
I guess I didn't look up what were other movies of 71. Like what was the time, what was like kind of like the French Connection came out in 71. Just Roy Scheider getting around, dirty
Clockwork Orange, Fiddler on the Roof, The Last Picture Show. I'm just reading off the Best Picture nominees.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick, Norman Jewison, Peter Bogdanovich.
Shaft came out the same year, huh?
Okay, yeah.
Straw Dogs, THX 1138. Oh, Andromeda Strain. Okay.
Yep. That's hard to believe.
Oh, Play Misty for Me. I've never seen that, but I've heard about that. It's like a serial killer and a song, something like that. Okay. So yeah, a lot of downer moments in 71. So.
Oh, the 70s was an amazing time for film.
Yeah, we might not get into it, but I know like the 70s. There's a lot of things about the 70s. We've got 70s paranoia thrillers here. We got 70s disaster films, but we probably won't get to what we call like the kind of the 70s auteur director phase, where this is like where you get the rise of Spielberg and Lucas and who's the Godfather guy, who's now like a billionaire. Coppola. He now makes more money selling wine than making movies.
Yeah, well, it just shows you the state of things in this world. Or how much money some people have and other people don't.
Yeah. There's a lot of different things going on in the 70s. That's why it's kind of great time for music and movies. Then also you look at it and it's like, oh wow, this is super depressing. But they had a lot.
It was the first end of America.
Yeah.
This was when the party's over for America. We're rock bottom. It can't get any worse than this. Then the 80s happened. And now we're at like the second end of America where I hear the same stuff.
Yeah.
Can't get any worse. We're rock bottom. We'll never recover from this.
The 80s was a glorious time that we'll never return to.
The 80s and the 90s was a storied time in human history. it was like the rise of the Roman Empire. It'll never be repeated, and then 20 years from now, I'll be laughing like, God, the '80s sucked. And it's like,
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the people in the '80s were like, "Man, the '50s, what happened to America?"
yeah,
So remember the filmmakers in the '80s made stuff about like what do you call that? When you like an old time, what the hell is that phrase? Nostalgia.
nostalgia. Yeah,
Yeah, the '80s nostalgia for the '50s and the 2010s became the 2010s nostalgia for the '80s. So
yeah. It's the 30-year cycle.
and they're trying to do the 2020s nostalgia for the '90s, but it's not really kicking off the way they want it
No,
to. So
well, the decades ended in the '90s.
yeah.
Because there's no one's like, oh, remember the aughts? Those were great. Like, because our culture's just become a smear.
um
And it's also changing a lot faster than it ever used to because things come and go so quick.
yeah, well also like, the omni culture, or no, what was it? The monoculture doesn't exist anymore. So
No, there's too many things going on.
yeah. Which I get all. If you don't know what the monoculture is, it's basically like when there was kind of a consensus as to like this is the '80s, this is the style, this is the music. Where it's like nowadays, it's like what's the style, what's the music, and it's like it's anything you want it to be.
Yeah, we live in kind of like a David Lynch film now, of like ideas clashing together. It's like I can't wait till I hear about the Taylor Swift Pink Floyd World Tour. Like, yeah, why not? It would make perfect sense.
um, yeah. It all went away when people could watch TV on demand. It ruined everything. Then it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch my television show at midnight because I work 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
Ended everything right there.
Yeah, that's when culture. That's the day the music died, folks.
Well, we're sending a probe into space containing the supercut of the what I call it, the imperfect collection that is the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what scene from Klute are we shoving into space?
Oh, this was gonna be hard because I can't. I love the two main characters, but if I really want to establish what this movie does to you, it has to be when Cable's playing the snuff film to Bree.
Yeah.
Because that is the whole mood of the movie. It's like something awful is gonna happen. Something awful has happened, and something awful is about to happen, which is what makes this movie great.
Yeah, this movie is most effective in the prelude to what you think is going to happen, and
Yeah,
then kind of
yeah.
nothing happens.
Which I sort of weirdly like.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, I'm going to eat this sweet candy, but it also is sour at the same time. It's like, well, this is cool because it's not what I expect. Even though we knew Cable was the bad guy from like the first hour of the movie, it's like, well, we knew what to expect, but it's still cool. So it's kind of like,
Yeah, we were so engrossed with movies lying to us that this movie was so straightforward we didn't believe it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I didn't believe it. I don't know if you had the same kind of things of like thinking.
Well,
that
you got to
anything...
remember, I'm like, I think Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, is like apex filmmaking. And it's like, so yeah, you'll always beat me with style over substance. I mean, always, all the time. I can't resist it. So yeah.
Well, I don't know. You said you didn't have the feelings of misdirect and that I was having at every moment because I was kind of like over anticipating the movie.
No, because it was Klute's workmanlike as an investigator.
Yeah.
It immediately filled me in. It's like, oh, the bad guy's right in front of him. The real mystery he's going to have to unravel is the guy paying him to solve the mystery is the bad guy.
Yeah.
But you're going to know that from a kind of omniscient audience viewpoint, but he's not going to know that. Bree's not going to know that. They're going to have to put it together at some point, but you're going to know that. You're going to know that from, first hour of the movie. So I didn't feel like, oh no, there's going to be a change of scenery because to bring something else in would have been random, stupid, and pissed everyone off.
Yeah.
Because it would be like, well, we had no chance to develop that because you just threw that in as a curveball. And it's like, nope, We followed straight through. The mystery was like, will Klute figure it out in time? And he did, because thankfully this guy committed the weirdest suicide ever.
And he completely got away with 3 murders.
Completely. Like, I don't know why he didn't, like, I guess Klute had a gun, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know why he didn't try, like, I'm just going to bash these people to death and walk away from this one, too, because I've already done this 3 times. But, you know.
I don't know. That's kind of like we have like mass shooters when like they, they kill a bunch of people, and then immediately when someone with a when the cops come after them with guns, they're like, I can't handle this, and they just blow their brains out.
Yeah. It's like, try to graduate to the next level of gameplay. It's like, you've shot unarmed civilians that can't defend themselves. Now here comes the guys with guns. Like, test yourself. I mean, you're going to lose because you're facing multiple opponents, but no, because mass shooters are guess what? They're cowards. Yeah, they're not heroes. They're not. They want to shoot people that can't shoot back, and then once the level of difficulty gets up, it's like, no, I want to play on safe mode the whole time. So they blow their brains out, which is, if they'd done that in their basement from the beginning, and we wouldn't have this problem. But they never do that because they're angry cowards. I want to be heard.
The world is a lie. Oh no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm with you up until the point you started killing strangers. It's like, hey, everything you say, like, philosophically, it's like, you're not wrong. It's just your conclusions are strange.
Yeah.
It's like, I hate everything. The world's a con. I'm getting fucked over by it. Yeah, checks out. I'm with you, bro. Now I'm going to go, like, murder a school. It's like, whoa. Wait a minute.
Yeah. And,
why?
And every mass shooting ever, there's never been a positive outcome where it's like, oh, I changed something forever because of this. It's like, no, now we got to take our shoes off or whatever to walk into a school and like.
Yeah, there's no such thing as like the Lanza effect. Is like, well, you see, this changed a lot of things. It's like, no, it actually changed nothing at all.
But people still do it. Like, no, this is gonna solve it. This. And even the moments where you think we're like, oh, like, I'm the hero, I shot the bad guy. It's like, you still got to go through the court system because you murdered somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, wasn't that what happened to the Walmart guy? Like, some dude in Texas just like emptied a clip into his back, and he's like, well, he stopped the shooting. It's like, yeah, he still has to pony up like $50,000 for a lawyer or whatever. It's like, why stop the shooting? It's like, well, you gotta understand there's a legal system here. We can't just pin a gold star on his chest and say you won, because that'll encourage all kinds of like really stupid behavior later on, where it's like, I preemptively killed that guy before he did anything because he looked like he was going to do bad. Now where's my gold star? It's like, oh shit, now we started the gold star economy. How do we get out of the sticker for shooting people stuff?
We're sending you to gold star jail. You meant good, but all you did was kill somebody. Was weird.
Yeah. It's like, hey, we didn't like this guy either, but emptying a Glock into his head was not called for. That's not. Yeah, we knew this guy was going to be a problem, but unfortunately, the way systems work here are reactive, not proactive. It's, what you did is kind of like some Minority Report stuff with none of the cool technology and little wooden balls that have the answer on them. It's, you just shot some guy because you didn't like him.
3 people in a pool told me this guy was going to kill somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, my heroin addicted neighbors is floating in a kiddie pool like that. No, it's pre-crime. No, you're just a weirdo, and your neighbors are junkies.
You can find us,
after that, please.
You can find us at Letterbox, user VHE. 1 out of 5 stars. Nathan, what are we giving Klute?
I'm going to give this one 5 stars.
All right. Our first 5 stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd definitely go for that. Like, I don't know, it's like definitely imperfect movie, but like that's sort of like part of its style.
Yeah, it's imperfect, but that's almost like
endearing.
It's intentionally that way.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh wow, this was kind of dumb, but I like this. It's like, no, this was more like, yeah, it was sort of drawn up that way. It was built. It was built, storied around the two main characters, and kind of the drama that unfolds around them. It wasn't like a perfect like mystery, where it's like, oh yeah, this all makes sense. Didn't see that one coming. Nope, it wasn't that. But it was like, but I think a lot of it was like the perspective of the audience was meant to be almost borderline omniscient. It's just
Yeah.
like the real struggle here is like, is Klute going to figure it out in time and show up with his tiny revolver to, save the day?
He does.
I guess.
It's probably the most optimistic of the trilogy, because
Yeah, yeah. This is the one that like,
well, I've never seen All President Men. I don't know how that ends, but Parallax View is based so ends so
Parallax was
darkly.
dark. All the President's Men's based on like the Watergate
Yeah.
break-ins, so like that kind of ends like historically.
Okay.
And one of those guys is still writing books. Like,
Huh.
I think it was Woodward was like in the Trump White House, like, so what are you doing? It's like, I don't know, just follow me around and record my thoughts. And then when he published his book and it revealed what a cretin Trump was and what a bunch of buffoons the people around him were, Trump was like, oh, he's an asshole. It's like, oh, he's just using your words. He just followed you around the White House because you were arrogant enough to think you were gonna like snooker Bob Woodward, the guy who brought down like multiple presidents. It's like, I'm gonna fool Bob Woodward. Like, I don't think he's amazed by the largesse of the presidency. It's not based on his record. Anyway, it has nothing to do with the movie, but
I don't know. Hey, All the President's Men has connections.
Yeah.
So. You can find us at verhoeveneffect.com. We have listener support there. You can support us a monthly stipend of either 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 and cancel anytime. You can rate our podcast on whatever platform of choice you're listening on. You can rate us every one, but the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. Remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us at Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. We watch both this and that show live and unedited. Go to the live video page. We'll just say live, because that's where all our latest stuff is, and it's all organized by the latest to the oldest, whereas the video section is just stuff I uploaded literally years ago, like almost a decade ago. So it's not going to be helpful to whatever our latest stuff is, because we're almost exclusively a live podcast at this point on YouTube. So
yeah.
You can watch both, that show and this show live and unedited. And you can get t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory until the end of December. So for the Verhoeven Effect,
Yeah, get it in for Christmas.
so for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Colin.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.